Connected Commerce Summit, April 14th in New York. We're going to talk a lot about this transition from the easy growth era that commerce media has been in for, call it, the past 5 years. And as we transition into this more hard-driven test phase of durability, can we be a durable, sustainable industry going forward? That's going to be the broad theme. And we're going to talk about some of the challenges, the current challenges that we have as we move into this more durability phase. And I think some of those things are going to be, how do we create shared language? How do we talk more about measurement, not just as a look back, but more as a predictor of where we should be investing going forward? And then we'll also talk about some of the integration challenges that exist in our industry, both integration into the broader digital advertising industry and also integration within the broader commerce business as well.
So, Collin, you mentioned testing and getting to durability. There's so much talk around moving from a test and learn to execution phase. What critical gaps need solving to make commerce media truly scalable and to get that execution phase nailed down?
Yeah, it's interesting because we've had the moment of laying down the foundation, and there is a foundation that exists within commerce and retail media today, and now it's about building up from that foundation. And I think part of it is, how do we all talk the same language? So when we're talking about things like ROAS or iROAS, being super clear across retailers, across brands, what do those two things mean? And how do we define iROAS? How do we define ROAS? Just one particular point of language barriers that sometimes exist. Same thing around incrementality. Brands often are looking at incremental sales lift. You know, they want to know, did my media move more product that it wouldn't have been able to move without that media? Whereas the retailers sometimes look at it as, is that driving incremental margin for my business as a merchant? So making sure that we align on these shared languages, that's going to be super critical to making sure that we execute flawlessly as an industry going forward. And there's a lot of other different pieces that are part of this execution layer beyond just language. There's also operational challenges that exist too. We have silos that exist between merchandising, between media, especially in the retail organization. In the brand organization, it's very much, you have trade, shopper, national media teams, all kind of working in a siloed manner, but having to have conversations that are really challenging. So you see a lot of this operational maturity and sort of structural challenges come to the surface that are going to be big parts of how we execute as an industry going forward.
So, Collin, you mentioned incrementality. It's something I've been fascinated with for a while, and it's such a big part of retail media, commerce media. It makes me also think of 15 years ago, we were talking about need to get rid of the idea of last click attribution, and my sense is that incrementality is a way of maybe finally dealing with that. So with that in mind, the idea is still that measurement isn't enough, and so with that thought in mind, what does the industry still misunderstand about connecting measurement to actual business outcomes?
Yeah, I think it comes back to only looking at measurement as a proof of what we've done in the past. And that's certainly a place that measurement should play. And I think what we misunderstand is that measurement can also be used for future planning. And that's where I think a lot of the disconnect happens today, is that we don't use measurement for how should I be changing my investment, how should I be changing maybe investments that I currently have in flight, or creative that we're leveraging today. I think that's where we're going to see the shift in the next couple of years in measurement in retail media, really focus on how do we use all of this data, how do we use sales data, how do we use media performance data to be able to better allocate and better spend in different channels, different retailers, with different kinds of media creative that's going to yield the greatest incremental return. So I think that's a big challenge. I think a knowledge building challenge that we need to sort of bridge. And then the other thing is being able to connect incrementality to both sides of the retailer and the brand, and really align on what is the shared goal around incremental sales that we are going to work around. So this goes into joint business planning and some of the challenges there that retail media has brought, because you have trade and sales folks on the brand side, and you have merchants on the retailer side that are coming together on this sort of shared language that then impacts media that brings in stakeholders that are not always part of those negotiations. So I think those are things that we're going to see start to come again to the surface. That you'll start seeing marketers on the brand side, and you'll start seeing media owners on the retailer side come into those JBP negotiations increasingly more.
So, Collin, as you talk about building bridges between brands and the retailers, there's also the bridges being built between the digital shelf and the in-store shelf and cross-media environments generally. So, what does commerce media done right look like with those connections involved?
Yeah, I think it comes down to leveraging commerce media more than just a performance channel, more than just a let's capture this transaction right now. You see one of the really interesting things coming out of something like Shop Talk last week is that retail media is starting to go into other offsite avenues. So you have Kroger announcing their partnership with DV360, just one example. But it's starting to show where you can really leverage commerce media across the entire funnel for both awareness building, consideration, and eventually to purchase where it is typically lived. So I think that's one facet, is really leveraging the data that retailers have to be able to build a more full funnel audience campaign. And then the other part of it is that you're going to have you're going to have brands thinking about how can we leverage creative throughout that funnel that's going to pull a customer in a way that we maybe weren't able to do before with retail media, where it was so transaction driven, and really get at the heart of like delight, surprise, being able to draw a new customer into your brand portfolio.
Collin, no conversation about commerce media can be had without the discussion of the impact of AI and agentic commerce in particular. So, when it comes to how decisions are being made, how efficiencies are being achieved, not just how ads are delivered. So, where do you see the earliest real impact, and what is the industry maybe underestimating in that impact?
Yeah, I mean, we know from our research that we did late last year that consumers are using AI most to be able to help them parse down the wide amount of variety of options they have down to one or two different products that they're looking to buy. So we know that it's helping them really come to a clearer decision faster. That's where AI is working today. The challenge with that is how does that change the way in which we try to influence the consumer further up in the funnel? Because that's really what agentic commerce or AI-driven shopping, whatever you want to call it, that's what it's doing, is it's pulling influence up further into the funnel, where the brand now has to start to think about, how do I want to show up within an LLM? How often am I showing up within one of these chat experiences within an AI agent experience? So I think that's some of the questions that you're going to see brands. I mean, they're already starting to wrestle with these questions. And then it has really big measurement challenges downstream as well, in terms of measuring my organic visibility. I think back to SEO and the importance of doing all of that. That's just this is the new generation of being able to do that within GEO, of really measuring organic visibility, and then trying to parse out, all right, how influential was the content that showed up in that chat experience on the eventual purchase that was made, wherever that was made.
So, Collin, to kind of end where we started with the discussion about commerce media really achieving this maturation phase, this durability phase that you spoke about, if the industry is serious about, again, getting all that done, what's the one mindset shift or action you want leaders to maybe take away from the summit?
Yeah, that I think it's that retail and commerce media can drive broader business objectives within retail and commerce, meaning we can really align media to the core retail business for greater outcomes when it comes to customer experience, when it comes to product movement, the things that retail businesses have cared about for forever, and that brands care about as well, because the sales leaders on the brand side, they care about how are we going to get that next pallet of product into a distributor, into a retail location. And if we can better align retail media to those broader business objectives, that's the mindset that I think we need to, and I think it's starting to happen, that we're all starting to shift more towards. You saw it a couple different times at New France and at Shop Talk, where you're seeing that alignment more strongly to the core business rather than media as this standalone that exists within the retail industry. So I think we're seeing that mindset shift take place already.